University of Connecticut introduces early decision. That is the topic of today's video. My name is Craig Meister. I'm a college admissions coach. You can learn more about me and how you can work with me one-on-one throughout the entire college admissions process on my website, which is collegemeister.com. And if you're interested in learning about whether or not you are or your student is on track for selective college admission in the United States of America, I encourage you to go over to my free 3-minute online assessment at areyouontracktogetin.com. Again, that's areyouontracktogetin.com. You'll complete an assessment. It will take you 3 minutes. Your results will be emailed to you right away, and you will learn whether or not you are or your student is on track for selective college admission in the United States of America. So UConn has gotten in the 23-24 admission cycle thousands more applications than it got last admission cycle. They actually are weighing in now at roughly 57,000 first-year applications for the 2023-2024 admission cycle. And this is coinciding with budget cuts at UConn and a rough economy and increasing numbers of students making their college admissions decisions and their college list based off of sports teams. And all of those factors colliding into one have created a perfect storm for UConn. And as a result, we have a situation where even though in talk around matters related to access in recent months and years, early decision has been bandied about with such other terms that are not in vogue as legacy admissions. We have a situation where a public institution is now taking a big step toward creating a new hurdle for admission for certain types of applicants. Early decision, for those who do not know, is an admissions plan where you apply by an earlier deadline during your senior year, usually November 1st, and that is exactly the date that UConn has chosen for its new early decision deadline. And when you apply early decision, you sign a contract as the applicant. Your guardian, at least one guardian parent, signs the contract as well. And your college counselor at your high school also signs the contract, all saying that if you get admitted to that institution early decision, and most of the time early decision schools notify in the middle of the month of December, and that is the case again with UConn's new early decision plan. They will notify applicants in the middle of December. Then you will pull your applications from all other institutions and you will matriculate. You will deposit, you will attend. That's basically what the gist of early decision agreements state. There are carve-outs for domestic applicants in most cases for the ability to pull out in the event that you do not get the need-based aid your family requires based off of your family's perspective, not necessarily the perspective of the college or university that's awarding aid. But that's a relatively small carve-out in the larger, grander scheme of things, particularly with a lot of international applicants these days as well to institutions that are well-known around the world, and UConn would definitely be one of those. So all things being equal, early decision has been cast in recent years as a tool to protect colleges' yield, and in so doing, limiting inclusivity and access. So it's very ironic and interesting that UConn, public flagship university in the state of Connecticut, a state that is of course associated with the ideologies related to the powers that be in higher education generally, which is generally left of center, has decided to introduce a tool that has been much maligned by many in that segment of the population as being limiting access and limiting inclusivity and creating a society in which certain people who have certain resources have better options than individuals who have fewer resources. So it's sort of ironic, but when you cut away all that, you also have a situation where budgets are tight, and this tool, early decision, will help UConn create a funnel of applicants who are more likely to matriculate, and therefore they'll be able to manage yield better. Because right now, with so many people applying to UConn for such superficial reasons, such as, oh, they have a great basketball team, or, oh, there's a lot of school spirit, UConn wants to do a better job of clarifying who is more likely to deposit, and who is more likely to just be applying on a whim and has no real serious intentions of attending. And currently that takes resources and time and money of the admission staff. They are going to see if early decision will help them increase their yield, which of course it also has the knock-on effect of increasing a student's ranking on many rankings lists, because the more students who get in who ultimately choose to attend creates a situation where the school appears to be more in demand, and that of course on certain rankings lists increases the rank of a school. So it's sort of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you introduce early decision, oftentimes the school ends up having a situation where it can reject far more students' regular decision. And in the case of UConn, they also will continue to offer priority decision. They're going to be able to reject more students in those admissions rounds because they're going to be able to guarantee more sure things in the early decision admission round. More students who will definitely ultimately deposit and attend. So ultimately what happens in a situation where a school offers early decision is a student benefits because they get to celebrate before the holiday season in the United States, Christmas and New Year's, etc., that they know where they're going to college. They can relax the rest of their senior year, not too much. You don't want to start failing classes, but they can relax basically for the rest of their senior year. That's the benefit to students. The benefit to the institution is far higher because the institution can now determine how many more students they can reject during the other rounds and get the numbers that they need to pay the bills, but also reject everyone else possible so that they can become more exclusive and in demand for future cycles. And again, in future cycles, people hear, oh, UConn is getting more difficult to get into. That's a up and coming school. That's now not a safety on your list. That's probably more possible now, or that's probably more of a reach. And then year after year, this goes by, and all of a sudden, the school has greater gravitas, as they say. So in so doing, this decision at UConn, I will just state, for those who want to know the brass tacks of the situation, UConn is going to have multiple deadlines. The November 1 deadline for fall 2025 entry for early decision is November 1, and you will hear by the middle of December with your decision. There is still going to be a November 15th deadline for special programs. If you don't want to commit to definitely attending UConn, but you want to apply to special programs at UConn in medicine, dental medicine, and law, you can apply by November 15th and not be binded to attend, and you will hear of your admissions decision or receive it online in our portal by March 1st. So there's not huge benefit in terms of timing there for a student, but in any case, there's also a December 1st deadline at UConn for the 24-25 admission cycle, and the December 1st deadline is officially known as priority. So if you cannot do early decision, I strongly recommend that you apply by the priority application deadline because you're going to get priority read relative to the deadlines I'm about to talk about next. But the December 1st priority deadline for UConn and merit honors consideration as well. Merit and honors consideration is December 1st, and applicants will hear by March 1st, again, of their admissions decision. And then the Storrs campus, which is the, a campus of theirs, that is going to have another specific deadline. The Storrs campus application deadline is going to be January 15th. So that's basically, for all intents and purposes, the drop dead deadline. That's the main campus. The Storrs campus is the main campus. And that's the drop dead deadline, January 15th. But you are really skating on thin ice if you don't get your application into UConn for the main campus Storrs until after December 1st. Because, of course, what's happening here, all of these later admissions plans, the acceptance rates are going to go lower and lower. So the highest acceptance rate is probably going to be early decision. The lowest acceptance rate will probably be the January 5th Storrs College campus application deadline. And those kids also hear March 1st. So there's no benefit on the part of the student to wait until January 15th to apply when you're going to hear the exact same date of March 1st when you could apply all the way back in November, by November 15th, or at the latest December 1st, which is the priority application deadline. The FAFSA deadline for next year is going to be February 15th at UConn, and the regional campus, the regional campuses of UConn. Connecticut's a small state. And actually, UConn is a relatively small public institution because it's a small state. It's only got about 20,000 some students, lower 20s in the number of undergraduate population, maybe high teens even, but let's say roughly 20,000. The deadline for the regional campus will be May 1st, and that's admissions decisions made on a rolling basis. So that's more of a satellite campus. That's not where you really want to be if you're coming all the way from Florida or California or Maine or Maryland. But again, if you're coming from those states, why are you looking at Connecticut anyway is the question. And maybe the reason is because you watch sports. Now, if you're coming from Connecticut, there's a huge reason why you would want to go to UConn, which is it's a respectable institution. It's got a lot of resources relative to some privates, a lot of privates in that region. And the cost, if you're a Connecticut resident, the cost is very compelling. And let's be honest, 70% of 70% of UConn undergrads, roughly, at this time, are Connecticut residents. So this is not just people who like to watch men's basketball or other basketball or other sports for Connecticut all around the country or the world who are interested now or have heard of UConn now. It is a lot of resident families, Connecticut residents, who financially cannot afford any longer private schools. Maybe they could afford it 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years ago, or out of state schools. They can't afford it anymore. So this is an economic story as much as it is a story about sports or about the budget per se of UConn in particular. This is about family budgets of Connecticut residents and wanting to get their kids into the best high quality institution that they can afford if they're a Connecticut resident. If you're from out of state, again, I don't know the number of students who are flying up from Florida to go to UConn. I would assume it's not that huge of a number, but I mean, Florida is a big state. Same thing with California, other states. But I mean, look, Connecticut does get students from out of state for a variety of reasons. But it's not like it's the most exciting campus of public university campuses out there, or the most compelling and dynamic location of university public university campuses out there. But it is in a corridor of the Northeast corridor between New York and Boston that is interesting, particularly for international students and students who maybe don't run in those circles frequently. It's like an exotic experience. So if you're applying from Illinois, or if you're applying from Wisconsin, or you're applying from West Virginia or Virginia, this is a new part of the world for you, or the new part of the country for you. So as a result, I can see why this could be an exciting opportunity, again, in concert with, their increasing demand and interest in, the non-academic related parts of the UConn experience. So be aware, UConn is now an early decision school. We'll see if it continues. There have been schools in the past who have gone early decision for a little bit and then pull back on it. The most notable examples include University of Virginia, which eventually reinstituted early decision again. So they had no early decision, then they had early decision, then they had no early decision, and now University of Virginia has early decision again. And we're now in a period where Virginia Tech went early decision for a period, and Virginia Tech now is no longer early decision. And again, that decision was couched or framed in the argument that for access purposes, we are going to eliminate early decision. So again, it is interesting when a public institution starts offering early decision. There are multiple things to consider that a private institution doesn't have to worry about, including what is the real mission of a public university? Is it there to serve the public, and particularly the public of that state, or is it there to serve the whims of officials of the institution or the overall bottom line of the institution? And that's why the vast majority of public institutions in the United States, whether they are highly selective or highly unselective, do not offer anything like early decision. And most public institutions offer early action. But early decision is now a thing at UConn. I'll do a future video where we talk about the other public institutions in the United States of America that also happen to have an early decision admissions plan. Again, early decision is binding. Early action, priority, regular rolling, all those other admissions plans you may come across when applying as a first-year applicant are non-binding. Can you get out of a binding decision? You can, but usually you got to read the fine print carefully. and you have to be in a particular demographic, usually an American citizen or legal resident, as opposed to an international student who has a harder time ever wrangling him or herself out of an early decision contract. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and also consider subscribing to my channel. If you want to get expert college admissions advice and support throughout the entire college admissions process, or even for just part of it, I encourage you to go to my website, collegemeister.com. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and most importantly, stay stress-free throughout the entire college admissions process.